The final heartbeat had been recorded 47 minutes ago. The device sending this data was a Fitbit fitness tracker. It belonged to a woman who had vanished 3 days earlier while jogging on Ocean View Beach. Emily Harrison, 29 years old, marketing professional at a tech company downtown. An amateur competitive runner who maintained a disciplined training schedule. Her parents had reported her missing on June 15th at 11 in the morning. Emily had left for her regular dawn run at 5:47. She always returned by 7:30 to shower before work. That morning, her apartment remained empty. Her car sat untouched in the parking garage. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Before we begin the story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. We're really curious where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a rating. Detective Sarah Chen caught the case that afternoon. Missing persons cases in San Diego numbered in the dozens weekly, but something about this one felt different. Emily Harrison wasn't a runaway teenager or a transient. She was responsible, predictable, methodical. Her social media showed the last post at 6:02 that morning, a selfie on the beach with the caption, "Dawn Miles hit different," and a geotag for Ocean View. Chen's first move was standard procedure. Check the digital footprint. Emily's Instagram remained active. Her Fitbit continued transmitting data to the cloud. The device was still powered on, still recording, still somewhere within cell tower range. The GPS coordinates painted a disturbing picture. At 6:14, Emily's heart rate had spiked from 68 beats per minute to 142 in 20 seconds. The pattern suggested sudden stress or intense physical exertion. Her step count simultaneously dropped to 0, but the device continued moving. Transportation in a vehicle. The GPS trail led from Ocean View Beach toward an industrial district 8 kilometers inland. There, the coordinates became stationary. The location, an abandoned warehouse complex. The altitude reading showed -4 meters underground. Emily Harrison had been somewhere beneath the earth for 72 hours. Her heart had beaten throughout, until 47 minutes ago. Detective Chen assembled a tactical response team within minutes. They raced toward the coordinates, sirens cutting through the late afternoon traffic. The warehouse sat in a desolate industrial zone, surrounded by chain-link fencing and overgrown vegetation. Padlocks on the main entrance showed rust and age. Nobody had entered through those doors in years. The team spread out, searching for alternate access points. A service entrance on the east side revealed fresh disturbance in the dust. The lock had been recently manipulated. Inside, concrete stairs descended into darkness. The basement level stretched beneath the entire building, a maze of storage rooms and maintenance corridors. They found the space in the northwest corner. The ventilation grate had been removed. Chen's flashlight beam penetrated the shaft, revealing a deeper chamber below. The tactical team rappelled down. Emily Harrison lay in that underground room. The Fitbit remained fastened to her wrist, its small LED blinking in the darkness. The device had recorded everything, every heartbeat, every moment. 72 hours of data that would become the most critical evidence in the investigation to follow. But 3 days earlier, Emily had been alive, vibrant, completely unaware of what awaited her that June morning. Emily worked at Quantum Digital, a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown San Diego. Her colleagues described her as driven, focused, perhaps too dedicated. She arrived early, stayed late, and volunteered for challenging projects. 6 months prior, she had earned a promotion to senior marketing analyst. The achievement represented years of careful career building. Her personal life centered around fitness. Running wasn't merely exercise. It was meditation, therapy, competition, and social connection combined. She posted regularly on Strava, sharing routes and times with a community of fellow runners. Her profile remained public, accessible to anyone who searched for local athletes. 4 months before her disappearance, Emily mentioned to her closest friend Jessica that something felt off during her morning runs. "I keep seeing the same person on the parking lot," she had said over coffee. "White van. I can't see the driver's face clearly, but it's there too often to be coincidence." Jessica had suggested reporting it to police. Emily dismissed the concern. "I'm probably being paranoid. It's a public beach. Lots of people come early." Emily blocked the account immediately. She mentioned it to nobody except Jessica, who urged her again to file a report. "What would I even say?" Emily had replied. "Someone complimented my running? That's not a crime." In her phone's Notes app, investigators later found an entry dated April 15th. "Same white van again. North parking lot. Changed my route 3 times this month. How do they keep finding me?" Emily Harrison had sensed danger. She had taken precautions. She had altered her behavior, but she had not reported anything to authorities. Perhaps she feared seeming dramatic. Perhaps she believed she could handle it herself. Perhaps she underestimated the threat. The people in Emily's orbit became immediate persons of interest. Detective Chen compiled a list based on interviews with family, friends, and coworkers. 3 individuals emerged as particularly relevant. Jason Crowley was 27 years old, a fitness trainer at Iron Wave Gym located 3 kilometers from Emily's apartment. He worked the opening shift, arriving at 5 in the morning to prepare for early clients. The gym stayed open from 5:30 until 11 at night, catering to professionals with demanding schedules. His demeanor during questioning struck Chen as nervous. Excessive perspiration despite the air-conditioned interview room. Difficulty maintaining eye contact. Repeated clarifications of timeline details without being asked. Jason lived alone in a converted garage apartment in an older neighborhood. His social media showed frequent gym posts, client testimonials, fitness motivation quotes. His Instagram stories often featured the gym's interior, equipment demonstrations, and occasionally clients who had given permission to be filmed. Brian Mitchell, 32 years old, was Emily's supervisor at Quantum Digital. He managed the marketing department, overseeing a team of 7 analysts. His professional relationship with Emily had raised eyebrows among coworkers. "Brian definitely had a thing for her," one colleague told Detective Chen during interviews. "He'd always find reasons to keep her late. Project discussions that could have been emails. Strategy sessions that didn't include anyone else from the team." Brian was married with 2 young children. His wife, Rachel, worked as a pediatric nurse. They lived in a suburban development 30 minutes from downtown. By all external appearances, they maintained a stable family life. Chen interviewed Brian at the Quantum Digital offices on June 16th. He sat composed in the conference room, hands folded on the table, expression professionally concerned. "Emily was an exceptional employee," he stated. "Her disappearance is devastating for the entire team. We're doing everything we can to cooperate with your investigation." When asked about his relationship with Emily, Brian provided measured responses. "Purely professional. I supervised her work. We had regular check-ins about project status. That's standard management practice." Coworkers, however, described something more. 2 weeks before Emily's disappearance, Brian had invited her to a working dinner to discuss an upcoming campaign pitch. Emily had declined, citing existing plans. Brian's mood the following day had been noticeably subdued. Digital forensics recovered deleted text messages from Emily's phone backup. The conversation with Brian showed a pattern of persistent invitations, coffee meetings, lunch discussions, after-work drinks, all framed as professional networking. Emily's responses remained polite but non-committal. The final exchange occurred June 8th. Brian had suggested they grab dinner sometime to discuss your career trajectory. Emily had replied, "I appreciate the thought, but I'm pretty swamped right now." The third person of interest lived closer than anyone initially realized. Marcus Wayne, 25 years old, resided in the apartment directly below Emily's. A computer science student who had recently dropped out of university, Marcus spent most of his time at home working freelance IT projects for local businesses. He had been helpful during the initial investigation, providing access to the building's Wi-Fi router logs when Detective Chen requested them. Marcus explained that he had basic networking skills and could pull connection data if needed. His cooperation seemed genuine, his manner awkward but willing. "I'd see Emily around the building," Marcus told Chen during the first interview. "We weren't really friends, just neighbors who said hi in the hallway. She seemed nice, always had her running gear on in the mornings." When pressed for more details, Marcus admitted, "Sometimes I'd see her on her balcony doing stretches. My window faces that direction. I wasn't like watching her specifically, I'd just notice when I was at my desk." His apartment was cluttered with computer equipment, multiple monitors, server racks, networking hardware. Marcus worked primarily with small business IT setups, he explained, installing routers, configuring security systems, troubleshooting network issues. He had a client list of about 30 local shops and offices. One of those clients was Iron Wave Gym. Marcus had upgraded their network infrastructure 3 months earlier. The job had taken 2 days, during which he had interacted with staff including Jason Crowley. They had exchanged phone numbers in case any technical issues arose. Another client was a tech startup that Brian Mitchell had invested in, a fitness app company developing wearable device integration. Marcus had done consulting work on their back-end systems. He and Brian had met twice during project coordination meetings. These connections weren't immediately apparent. They emerged gradually as Detective Chen mapped the relationships between persons of interest. Marcus knew Jason through business. Jason knew Emily through the gym. Brian knew Emily through work. Brian knew Marcus through a business investment. Marcus lived below Emily. The web of connections suggested either remarkable coincidence or something more deliberate. The list of networks the device had detected between June 15th and 18th included dozens of SSIDs, network names from various sources. Most were public or distant signals too weak for connection. But one network appeared repeatedly in the logs, Brian M_home_5G. Brian Mitchell's home network, the residential Wi-Fi signal from his suburban house. According to the GPS coordinates, Emily's Fitbit had been at the abandoned warehouse, 8 kilometers from Brian's residence. Yet somehow, the device had detected his home network. Technically, Wi-Fi signals don't travel 8 kilometers. Standard residential routers broadcast perhaps 50 meters under ideal conditions. The abandoned warehouse sat far outside any reasonable range of Brian Mitchell's home. Unless the network name had been replicated somehow, cloned, broadcast from a different location using the same SSID. This revelation came on June 19th, day 4 of the investigation. Detective Chen obtained a warrant for Brian Mitchell's home network equipment. The forensics team arrived at his house that evening, surprising Brian and his wife during dinner. They seized the router, examined the access logs, and discovered something unexpected. Between June 16th and June 18th, an unknown device had connected to Brian's home network. The device MAC address didn't match any equipment belonging to Brian, his wife, or their children. Someone else had accessed the network remotely. Detective Chen sat in her office at midnight, reviewing the timeline. Marcus Wayne, the helpful neighbor, had been connected to Brian Mitchell's home network from a remote location. His phone had somehow joined that network while Emily Harrison's Fitbit simultaneously detected it from the warehouse location. The technical implications suggested deliberate manipulation. Someone with IT knowledge had created a mobile hotspot, broadcasting Brian's network name to confuse digital forensics. Someone who understood how wearable devices logged nearby networks. Someone who knew investigators would trace the signal. Marcus Wayne had installed Brian's home network. He possessed the password, the configuration details, the technical knowledge to replicate it. On June 20th, Detective Chen assembled her team for a briefing. "We're looking at sophisticated digital deception," she explained. "Someone created false trails. Someone wanted us to focus on Brian Mitchell." But questions remained. Why frame Brian? What connected these individuals? And most critically, where had Marcus Wayne been on the morning of June 15th when Emily Harrison disappeared? Marcus Wayne's initial alibi appeared solid. He claimed to have been asleep until 9 in the morning on June 15th. No witnesses could confirm this, but nothing contradicted it either. His apartment building had no security cameras in the hallways. The parking garage camera system had malfunctioned 2 weeks prior and remained unrepaired. "I set the game to auto-start," Marcus explained when confronted. "It runs background processes even when I'm not actively playing. My computer stays on 24/7 for server maintenance work." The explanation was technically plausible. Many gamers and IT professionals maintained always-on systems. But it also provided no real alibi. The computer activity proved only that his equipment was running, not that Marcus himself was home. The white van that Emily had noted in her journal became a priority. Witnesses near Ocean View Beach reported seeing a white commercial van in the north parking lot on the morning of June 15th. The coffee shop owner, opening at 6 o'clock, remembered noticing it. Unusual for that hour, he told investigators. That lot normally stays empty until 7 when the early morning crowd arrives. Brian's company vehicle access logs showed he had checked out the van on June 12th for a client meeting. He had returned it June 14th. The van had remained in the company parking lot overnight. Security footage from Quantum Digital's garage confirmed the vehicle never moved between 8 p.m. on June 14th and 7:30 a.m. on June 15th. Another white van belonged to a construction company owned by Jason Crowley's friend. Jason had borrowed vehicles from this friend before, documented through text messages and social media posts. But service records showed that particular van had been in the shop for transmission repair from June 14th through June 16th. The mechanic's time-stamped work orders and security footage confirmed it never left the automotive garage. The white van remained unidentified. Someone had driven it. Someone had parked it at Ocean View Beach. Someone had used it to transport Emily Harrison. Rental records provided another avenue. Chen's team contacted every vehicle rental agency in San Diego County. They requested records for white vans or commercial vehicles rented between June 10th and June 15th. Most rentals showed legitimate business purposes: moving companies, contractors, delivery services. One rental stood out: a white Ford Transit van reserved through a peer-to-peer car-sharing app on June 14th. The reservation was made using a burner email address and a prepaid debit card. The pickup location was a grocery store parking lot where the vehicle owner had left it with keys in a lockbox. No face-to-face interaction required. The app required GPS tracking as a condition of rental. The vehicle's movement history showed it traveling from the pickup point to a residential area 3 blocks from Emily's apartment building at 8 p.m. on June 14th. It remained parked there overnight. At 5:55 a.m. on June 15th, the van moved toward Ocean View Beach, arriving at 6:05. It departed the beach at 6:22, traveling directly to the industrial district. The GPS signal ended at the abandoned warehouse complex at 6:38. The van was returned to the original pickup location at 9:15 that morning. The vehicle owner, contacted by investigators, reported no issues with the rental. "Everything seemed normal," he said. "The van was clean, fuel tank was full, no damage. They even left a 5-star review on my profile." Marcus Wayne had attended San Diego State until dropping out in March. He would have known the library layout, the public computer locations, the lack of surveillance in certain areas. But correlation wasn't proof. Thousands of people used that library. The computer station maintained no logs of individual users. The security cameras in that section had limited coverage. Detective Chen needed something more concrete. She turned to the smartphone data that had become the backbone of modern investigations. Every person of interest had a device. Every device left digital breadcrumbs. Jason Crowley's phone records showed troubling patterns. His device had pinged cell towers near Ocean View Beach at 6:10 a.m. on June 15th. This contradicted his statement about being at Iron Wave Gym from 5 a.m. onward. The gym's security footage confirmed his arrival at 4:55, but the video also showed him leaving through a rear exit at 5:58. He returned at 7:12. Confronted with this discrepancy, Jason's composure cracked. "Okay, yes, I went to the beach," he admitted. "I knew Emily ran there. I wanted to, I don't know, accidentally run into her. Talk to her somewhere outside the gym environment." Chen leaned forward. "You went to the beach where Emily was jogging? During the exact time window when she disappeared? And you didn't think to mention this?" "I didn't see her," Jason insisted. "I got there around 6:15. I waited maybe 20 minutes. She never showed up. I thought maybe she'd changed her route or skipped that day. So I left, went back to work." 20 minutes, 6:15 to 6:35, then straight back to the gym? "I stopped at a gas station for coffee. There's a Shell on Pacific Coast Highway. I paid with my card. You can check." The receipt confirmed a purchase at 6:40 a.m. Security camera footage showed Jason entering the convenience store, purchasing coffee and an energy drink, leaving within 3 minutes. His timeline was tight but possible. When investigators searched Jason's apartment, they found printouts of Emily's Strava routes, 7 different running paths, annotated with times and dates. He had tracked her patterns, mapped her movements, documented her schedule. But admiration had clearly crossed into obsession. His phone's photo gallery contained screenshots of Emily's Instagram posts, not just the public running photos, screenshots of her stories, her casual posts, images of her at work events or social gatherings. Dozens of images, saved systematically over 6 months. Jason's defense attorney argued that following someone's public social media didn't constitute a crime. The screenshots were from posts Emily herself had chosen to share publicly. Jason had never made threatening contact. He had never violated any restraint order because none existed. Detective Chen knew obsession when she saw it, but obsession wasn't the same as action. Jason had been at the beach. He had been tracking Emily. But had he actually taken her? The technical evidence from Emily's Fitbit suggested otherwise. The device showed Emily's heart rate spiking at 6:14. Jason's phone records showed him arriving at the beach at 6:15. The timeline didn't align. Emily had already been in distress by the time Jason got there. Unless he had left his phone elsewhere. Unless he had created a false digital trail. Unless he was more sophisticated than he appeared. Brian Mitchell's involvement seemed less direct but equally troubling. His personal phone GPS data confirmed he had been home on the morning of June 15th. His wife Rachel corroborated this. He was in bed until 7, she stated. I got up at 6:30 to prepare breakfast for the kids. Brian was definitely sleeping. But Brian also possessed a work phone provided by Quantum Digital. That device showed different location data. At 6:05 a.m., it pinged a tower near the company offices downtown. At 6:30, it registered at a tower near the industrial district. The phone returned to downtown at 7:15. Brian claimed he had given the work phone to a subordinate employee for the day. Tom needed it for client meetings, Brian explained. I handed it to him the night before. He picked it up from my house around 6. Tom Carruthers, the subordinate in question, confirmed receiving the phone. I had 3 client visits scheduled. Mr. Mitchell said I could use his work phone since mine was being repaired. I picked it up from his doorstep at 6. He'd left it in the mailbox. Tom's own vehicle GPS and credit card records corroborated his presence at various client locations throughout the morning. The work phone's movement matched his itinerary. But the route included a stop near the industrial district that Tom couldn't explain. I might have gotten turned around, Tom said. The GPS app kept glitching. I definitely didn't go to any warehouse. I went to a printing company on Industrial Boulevard for a meeting at 6:45. The printing company was indeed located near the warehouse complex, close enough that cell tower data might register the same location, close enough to create reasonable doubt. Yet another explanation, another convenient alibi, another technical justification for suspicious data. The investigation was accumulating circumstantial evidence but lacking definitive proof. Jason had been stalking Emily. Brian had shown inappropriate interest in her. Marcus had technical knowledge and means to manipulate digital evidence. Each had connections to the others. Each had some involvement with the white van, the beach, or the warehouse district. Detective Chen returned to the Fitbit data, searching for additional details her team might have missed. The device logged not just GPS and heart rate, but also altimeter readings, step counts, active minutes, and sleep patterns. Every metric was recorded, timestamped, stored in the cloud. One detail emerged during closer analysis. The Fitbit had detected 11 different Wi-Fi networks during Emily's captivity. Most were distance signals, too weak for connection, but the signal strength data revealed something interesting. Brian M. Home 5G appeared in the logs with varying strength. At some timestamps, the signal registered as weak. At others, it showed full bars. The fluctuation suggested the network source was mobile, moving closer and farther from Emily's location. Someone had been broadcasting Brian's network name from a portable device. Someone had been moving around the warehouse area. Someone had been checking on Emily, approaching the underground chamber, backing away again. The time frame of these signal strength changes provided new investigative leads. The Fitbit logged 16 instances where the cloned network signal strengthened significantly. These occurred at various times, twice on June 15th evening, 3 times overnight, 4 times on June 16th, 3 times on June 17th, and 4 times on June 18th before Emily's death. Each spike in signal strength represented someone approaching. Each approach represented a decision point. Someone had been monitoring the situation. Someone had been close enough to intervene, to provide help, to release Emily. Someone had chosen not to. The pattern suggested guilty knowledge. The perpetrator had returned repeatedly, drawn back to verify the situation, perhaps experiencing conflict or panic about what they had done. Detective Chen cross-referenced these timestamps with phone location data for all 3 suspects. Jason's phone showed movement during some of the timestamps, but not all. Brian's personal phone remained stationary at home. Marcus's phone showed the most consistent correlation. His device had been powered on and mobile during 14 of the 16 signal strength spikes. Marcus claimed his movements were routine. "I take walks," he explained. "I go to the convenience store. I visit clients. I don't stay locked in my apartment all day." But the direction of his movements, triangulated from cell tower data, showed repeated patterns toward the industrial district. Not every trip, but enough. 5 times over 3 days, Marcus's phone had traveled within a kilometer of the warehouse complex. "I have a client near there," Marcus said when confronted. "A small accounting firm. I do their IT support. I was probably going there for service calls." The accounting firm confirmed Marcus did work for them, but their records showed no service calls during June 15th through 18th. Their office manager stated they hadn't contacted Marcus since early May. The circumstantial evidence was mounting. The technical sophistication pointed toward Marcus. The geographic correlation supported suspicion. But Detective Chen needed something irrefutable, something that would survive legal scrutiny, something that would convince a jury beyond reasonable doubt. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The FBI's forensic analysis of Emily's Nike running shoes revealed more than just GPS tracking data. The shoes contained an embedded sensor that communicated with her phone via Bluetooth. This sensor recorded every footstep, storing data even when the phone was out of range, syncing automatically when reconnected. The sensor had survived. Despite 3 days in the underground chamber, the waterproof electronics remained functional. Investigators extracted the internal memory chip and recovered the stored data. 500 steps. The final movements before Emily was transported in the van. The data showed precise timestamps and stride patterns. Emily had been running at her normal pace along the beach path at 6:08. At 6:12, her stride shortened, her pace quickened. She had been accelerating, possibly trying to create distance from something or someone. At 6:13, the step pattern became erratic, stumbling, irregular, the biomechanics of someone struggling. The final steps registered at 6:14, location data showing she had moved from the beach path toward the north parking lot. The parking lot. The same location where the white van had been parked. The same location where the coffee shop owner had noticed the vehicle. The shoe sensor also recorded one additional piece of data: Bluetooth connections. The chip automatically logged nearby devices as part of its pairing protocol. On the morning of June 15th at 6:13, the sensor detected 3 Bluetooth devices in its immediate vicinity. One was Emily's own phone. One was her Fitbit. The third was an unknown device with a MAC address that forensic investigators traced to a specific product model, a Jogger Elite wireless earbud set. Detective Chen requested purchase records for that specific model from electronics retailers in San Diego County. 47 units had been sold in the previous year. One purchaser was Marcus Wayne. He had bought the earbuds in February, paying with a credit card, receiving a digital receipt. When investigators returned to Marcus's apartment with a search warrant, they found the earbuds in his desk drawer. Forensic analysis confirmed the MAC address matched the device detected by Emily's shoe sensor at 6:13 a.m. on June 15th. Marcus had been within Bluetooth range of Emily Harrison at the exact moment her distress began. Bluetooth range was typically 10 meters. He had been close, very close, close enough to intercept her, close enough to force her toward the white van, close enough to be the last person she encountered before disappearing. Confronted with this evidence, Marcus stopped cooperating. He requested an attorney. He refused further questioning. His demeanor shifted from helpful neighbor to silent suspect. Detective Chen obtained additional warrants. Marcus's laptop was seized and subjected to forensic examination. The computer contained virtual machine software, tools used by IT professionals for testing but also useful for concealing digital activity. Within one of these virtual machines, investigators found browsing history that Marcus had believed was deleted. The history revealed research into Fitbit data storage, cloud synchronization protocols, and Wi-Fi network cloning. He had visited forums discussing how wearable devices logged location data. He had read articles about digital forensics in criminal investigations. He had educated himself on exactly the technical details that would matter in a case like this. More damning were the saved passwords. The virtual machine contained a text file with Wi-Fi credentials for dozens of networks. Among them, Brian M_home_5G with the password listed in plain text. Marcus had saved Brian's network information after installing the router months earlier. The computer also contained photo files. Not obviously suspicious images, but screenshots from social media. Emily's Instagram posts, her Strava routes, her check-ins at local businesses. Marcus had been documenting her public life, compiling information about her routines and patterns. One folder contained images that weren't from social media. Photos taken from a low angle, looking upward. The perspective suggested someone shooting from a lower floor toward a balcony above. Emily's balcony. The photos showed her doing stretches, adjusting her running gear, checking her phone. She appeared unaware of being photographed. Marcus lived directly below Emily. His window faced her balcony. He had been watching. He had been documenting. He had been planning. The evidence created a comprehensive picture: technical sophistication, geographic opportunity, digital deception, physical proximity, Bluetooth presence at the crime scene, research into investigative methods, photos suggesting surveillance. On June 23rd, Detective Chen arrested Marcus Wayne for the kidnapping and murder of Emily Harrison. He said nothing during the arrest. His attorney advised complete silence. He was processed, charged, and held without bail pending trial. But questions remained. Why Emily specifically? What had motivated Marcus to cross from observation to action? What had triggered the events of June 15th? The answer emerged from witness interviews conducted after the arrest. Jessica, Emily's close friend, recalled a conversation from the previous November. Emily had mentioned an awkward encounter in her apartment building elevator. "Some guy from downstairs tried to chat me up," Emily had said. "Super weird energy. I was polite but kept it short. He seemed disappointed." The elevator interaction had lasted perhaps 30 seconds. Emily had mentioned being in a hurry. She had declined when Marcus attempted to extend the conversation. A brief, forgettable social rejection. Except Marcus hadn't forgotten. For him, that 30-second interaction had represented something significant, a moment of connection, an opportunity. And Emily's polite dismissal had been interpreted as rejection. Over the following months, Marcus had intensified his observation. What might have been idle curiosity transformed into focused surveillance. He tracked her Instagram posts. He noted her Strava routes. He photographed her through his window. He researched her online presence. The anonymous Instagram messages sent 2 weeks before Emily's disappearance had come from an account created through a VPN, but investigators traced the posting times to periods when Marcus's computer showed high network activity. The messages contained specific details about Emily's running times and routes, information Marcus had compiled through months of watching. When Emily blocked that account, Marcus had interpreted it as another rejection. The pattern was escalating. Each interaction, each boundary Emily established, each act of self-protection had been viewed by Marcus as a personal slight. The morning of June 15th, Marcus had taken final action. He rented the white van using anonymous methods. He drove to Ocean View Beach before dawn. He parked in the north lot, the location he knew Emily would pass. He waited with his wireless earbuds connected, perhaps listening to music, perhaps listening to nothing, simply preparing himself. At 6:13, Emily had run past. Marcus had approached. What words were exchanged, if any, remained unknown. What exactly transpired in those critical seconds could only be reconstructed from the digital evidence. Emily's heart rate spiked. Her steps became erratic. The encounter ended with her being transported in the van toward the warehouse. He had believed he was creating a scenario where Emily would be dependent on him, where she would have no choice but to interact, where the power dynamic would shift in his favor. He had not planned for her death. He had underestimated the brutal realities of captivity, dehydration, and stress. Over 72 hours, Marcus had returned to the warehouse 16 times. Each approach had been documented by Emily's Fitbit as it detected his cloned Wi-Fi signal. Each visit represented an opportunity to release her, to provide adequate water, to acknowledge the disaster unfolding. Each time, he had chosen inaction. Perhaps he panicked. Perhaps he couldn't admit what he'd done. Perhaps he believed she would survive and eventually understand his perspective. Whatever his reasoning, he had let Emily Harrison die in that underground chamber while her Fitbit recorded every heartbeat until the final one at 6:33 p.m. on June 18th. The trial of Marcus Wayne began in February 2024, 18 months after Emily Harrison's death. The San Diego Superior Court assigned Judge Patricia Romero to preside. The prosecution team was led by Deputy District Attorney Michael Stern, a veteran of technology-based criminal cases. Marcus's defense fell to public defender Catherine Liu, who faced the challenge of countering overwhelming digital evidence. Jury selection took 3 days. The case had received significant media coverage. Finding 12 jurors unfamiliar with the basic facts proved nearly impossible. Judge Romero settled for jurors who could credibly claim they hadn't formed firm opinions about guilt or innocence. The prosecution's strategy centered on the digital trail. Stern opened with the Fitbit data, presenting the 72-hour timeline as irrefutable proof. Expert witnesses explained how the device recorded Emily's final days with scientific precision. Each heartbeat became a timestamp. Each GPS coordinate became a location marker. Each Wi-Fi signal detection became evidence of Marcus's presence. The defendant believed technology would provide him the perfect crime, Stern told the jury during opening statements. He understood digital systems. He manipulated networks. He created false trails pointing toward innocent people. But he made one critical miscalculation. He didn't account for the victim's own devices documenting everything. The Bluetooth evidence proved particularly damaging. Stern walked the jury through the technical details carefully, avoiding jargon that might confuse. At 6:13 a.m. on June 15th, Emily Harrison's running shoe detected a Bluetooth device. That device belonged to wireless earbuds. Those earbuds belonged to Marcus Wayne. The MAC address is unique to that specific product. The defendant purchased those earbuds 4 months before Emily's disappearance. When police searched his apartment, they found them in his desk. Forensic experts testified about the shoe sensor data. The final 500 steps told a story of acceleration, evasion, and ultimately struggle. The biomechanical analysis showed Emily had been trying to escape from someone. Her stride patterns indicated fear-driven running. The data terminated at the north parking lot where the white van had been positioned. The rental van's GPS history was entered into evidence. Jurors saw the complete route: pickup at a grocery store, overnight parking near Emily's apartment, arrival at Ocean View Beach at 6:05, departure at 6:22, arrival at the warehouse at 6:38. The timeline aligned perfectly with Emily's Fitbit spike at 6:14. The prosecution demonstrated how Marcus had cloned Brian Mitchell's Wi-Fi network to create false leads. Technical experts explained the process. Marcus had saved Brian's router password during a legitimate IT service call. He later used a mobile hotspot configured to broadcast the same network name. When Emily's Fitbit detected this signal from the warehouse, investigators initially suspected Brian. The defendant specifically chose to frame Brian Mitchell, Stern argued. Why? Because Marcus knew investigators would check digital evidence. He knew wearable devices logged nearby networks. He created a deliberate trail leading away from himself towards someone with a workplace connection to Emily. Catherine Liu, the defense attorney, faced a difficult task. The evidence was comprehensive, technical, and damaging. Her strategy focused on creating doubt about intent. She didn't dispute that Marcus had been involved in Emily's disappearance. Instead, she argued the death was unintended consequence rather than premeditated murder. "My client made terrible decisions," Liu told the jury. "He developed an unhealthy fixation. He crossed boundaries that should never be crossed. He created a situation that led to tragedy. But this was not murder. This was a disturbed young man who failed to understand the consequences of his actions until it was too late." Liu called mental health experts who testified about Marcus's social difficulties, his history of unsuccessful relationships, his tendency toward obsessive thinking. A psychologist described how individuals with certain personality disorders might misinterpret social signals and develop disproportionate emotional investments in one-sided connections. Marcus Wayne convinced himself that if Emily just spent time with him, she would recognize they belonged together, the psychologist testified. This delusion led him to create a scenario where forced proximity would lead to connection. He genuinely believed she wouldn't be harmed. He underestimated the physical realities of captivity. The defense presented evidence that Marcus had left water bottles in the underground chamber. Not enough water, not adequate provisions, but some attempt at sustaining life. This, Liu argued, demonstrated that death wasn't the intended outcome. If Marcus wanted to kill Emily Harrison, he could have done so immediately, Liu told the jury. Instead, he created this misguided scenario where he believed time would change her perspective. He returned to the warehouse 16 times over 3 days. Each time, he faced the reality that his plan was failing. He panicked, he froze, he made catastrophic decisions. But this is not first-degree murder. This is a tragic escalation of obsession that resulted in death without premeditation. The prosecution countered with Emily's own documented concerns, her journal entry about being followed, her decision to block the anonymous Instagram account, her altered running routes, Jessica's testimony about Emily expressing unease. These details painted Emily as someone aware of danger, taking reasonable precautions, ultimately unable to protect herself against someone with technical sophistication and determination. Emily Harrison knew something was wrong, Stern argued during rebuttal. She changed her behavior. She blocked the harassing account. She varied her routes. She did everything a reasonable person would do short of filing a police report. And Marcus Wayne countered every precaution. He researched her new routes through Strava. He created new anonymous accounts. He found ways around her defenses. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned, methodical, and ultimately fatal. The jury deliberated for 4 days. They requested to review the Fitbit data timeline multiple times. They asked for clarification on the Bluetooth evidence. They requested the photos from Marcus's computer be displayed again. The length of deliberation suggested disagreement about the appropriate charge. On February 28, 2024, the jury returned its verdict. Marcus Wayne was found guilty of kidnapping in the first degree. He was found guilty of false imprisonment. On the murder charge, the jury convicted him of second-degree murder rather than first-degree, accepting the defense argument that while Marcus's actions directly caused Emily's death, the killing itself wasn't premeditated. The jury concluded he had intended to imprison her, not to end her life. Judge Romero scheduled sentencing for April 15, 2024. Marcus sat expressionless as the verdicts were read. He showed no visible reaction. His parents, seated in the gallery, wept quietly. Emily's parents held hands, their faces reflecting exhausted relief rather than satisfaction. During the sentencing hearing, Emily's mother addressed the court. She spoke about her daughter's dedication, her discipline, her dreams of competing in a marathon. Emily worked so hard to build her life, she said, voice steady despite tears. She earned her promotion. She trained for months. She was careful, aware, responsible. And none of it mattered because someone decided she existed for his fantasy. Emily's father chose not to speak. He sat beside his wife, staring at Marcus with an expression Detective Chen would later describe as complete emptiness. The prosecution recommended 40 years to life. The defense requested 25 years with possibility of parole. Judge Romero took an hour to consider before announcing her decision. Mr. Wayne, "You stole Emily Harrison's future," Romero stated. "You created an elaborate plan involving technical deception, physical abduction, and sustained captivity. While the jury found you did not specifically intend to kill Miss Harrison, your actions over 72 hours demonstrated a callous disregard for her survival. You returned to that warehouse 16 times. You had 16 opportunities to save her life. You chose inaction. That choice transforms this from tragic mistake into calculated negligence resulting in death." Judge Romero sentenced Marcus Wayne to 35 years in state prison without possibility of parole. Marcus would be 60 years old before potentially facing a parole board. The sentence would be served at California State Prison in Lancaster, a facility housing maximum security inmates. Marcus was remanded to custody immediately. As bailiffs led him from the courtroom, he glanced once toward his parents. No words were exchanged. The door closed behind him. Detective Sarah Chen attended the sentencing. She had invested 19 months in this case, from the initial missing person report through the discovery, investigation, arrest, and trial. As she left the courthouse, reporters asked for her thoughts on the verdict. "Emily Harrison's Fitbit recorded 72 hours of data," Chen said. "Each heartbeat was a signal that went unanswered. Technology solved this case, but it couldn't save her. That's something I think about often." The technical evidence that convicted Marcus Wayne became the subject of legal discussions and law enforcement training. The case demonstrated both the power and limitations of wearable technology in criminal investigations. The Fitbit data provided unprecedented documentation of a victim's final hours, but it couldn't prevent the tragedy from occurring. Brian Mitchell, initially suspected due to the cloned Wi-Fi network, resigned from Quantum Digital 3 months after Marcus's arrest. The suspicion, though ultimately unfounded, damaged his professional reputation. His marriage survived, but colleagues reported the strain had been significant. He moved his family to Oregon and took a position at a smaller marketing firm where his name wasn't associated with the case. Jason Crowley left San Diego entirely. The revelation of his stalking behavior, though not criminal, destroyed his fitness training career. Iron Wave Gym terminated his employment. His social media accounts were deleted. Friends reported he relocated to Arizona and was working in retail management under his middle name. Tom Carruthers, Brian's subordinate who had borrowed the work phone, continued at Quantum Digital. He testified honestly during the investigation and was never considered a serious suspect, but the experience left him uncomfortable with workplace relationships. He declined management positions that would involve supervising others. The abandoned warehouse where Emily died was demolished in late 2024. The property owner, facing liability concerns and negative publicity, sold the land to a developer who planned to build residential lofts. Before demolition began, some community members suggested marking the location with a memorial. Emily's parents declined, stating they preferred to remember their daughter through her achievements rather than the place of her death. Marcus Wayne's parents sold their San Diego home and moved to Northern California. They released a single public statement expressing remorse for their son's actions and sympathy for Emily's family. They did not attend any subsequent parole hearings, though none would occur during their lifetimes given the sentence terms. The case influenced technology company policies regarding user data access. Fitbit, responding to privacy concerns raised during the trial, updated its terms of service to clarify how data could be accessed by law enforcement. The company emphasized that while the data had been crucial for justice in this case, users should understand the extent to which their devices documented daily life. Self-defense instructors in San Diego began incorporating digital safety into their curricula. Classes taught women not only physical techniques, but also strategies for managing online presence, recognizing surveillance behaviors, and understanding what information fitness apps made public. Detective Chen received a commendation from the San Diego Police Department for her investigative work. She later transferred to the department's cybercrime unit, specializing in cases involving digital evidence. She gave presentations at law enforcement conferences about the Marcus Wayne case, using it as an example of how technology creates both opportunities and challenges for investigators. The Bluetooth evidence became particularly influential in forensic training. The fact that Emily's shoe sensor had logged Marcus's earbuds provided the crucial link placing him at the scene. This prompted investigators nationwide to recognize that modern devices constantly communicated with their surroundings, creating inadvertent records that could solve crimes. Emily's story was covered by several true crime documentaries and podcasts during 2024 and 2025. Her parents cooperated with one production, hoping to raise awareness about the dangers of stalking and the importance of reporting concerning behavior. They emphasized that Emily had documented her unease but hadn't believed the situation warranted police involvement. "Trust your instincts," her mother said in an interview. "If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't worry about seeming dramatic." Emily worried about that. She shouldn't have. The Fitbit that recorded Emily's final 72 hours was retained as evidence. After the trial concluded, the device remained in police custody, stored in a climate-controlled evidence facility. The data it contained had been copied to secure servers, but the physical device itself was preserved for potential appeals or future legal proceedings. The case file for Emily Harrison's murder contained over 3,000 pages of documents, digital forensic reports, witness statements, and technical analyses. It represented one of the most thoroughly documented homicide investigations in San Diego County history. Every heartbeat, every step, every GPS coordinate, every network ping, all preserved digitally, all entered into the record, all contributing to the conviction. Marcus Wayne never spoke publicly about his motivations. His attorneys advised silence, a strategy maintained throughout his incarceration. He refused interview requests from journalists, documentary producers, and researchers studying criminal psychology. His internal thoughts, the specific reasonings that led him from observation to abduction to negligent homicide, remained known only to him. In prison, Marcus was classified as a non-violent offender despite the murder conviction based on the jury's finding that death wasn't his primary intent. He was housed in general population rather than administrative segregation. Reports from correctional staff described him as quiet, compliant, and solitary. He participated in no prison programs, joined no activities, corresponded with no one outside. The technology that convicted Marcus Wayne continued evolving. By 2025, wearable devices had become even more sophisticated, tracking additional biometrics, providing more detailed location services, storing greater quantities of data. Privacy advocates warned about surveillance implications. Law enforcement embraced the investigative possibilities. The tension between these perspectives remained unresolved. Emily Harrison's legacy existed in multiple forms. Her family established a scholarship fund for female athletes at San Diego State University. The award went annually to a student who demonstrated both athletic excellence and academic achievement, qualities Emily had embodied. Recipients received not only financial support, but also education about digital safety and personal security. Ocean View Beach, where Emily ran her final morning, remained popular with joggers and fitness enthusiasts. No memorial marked the north parking lot where she was taken. The location wasn't publicly identified in most media coverage. Life continued there as before. Early morning runners, beachgoers, families enjoying the coastline. Detective Chen sometimes drove past that beach during her morning commute. She thought about the case frequently, particularly the 16 times Marcus Wayne returned to the warehouse. 16 opportunities. 16 chances to prevent Emily's death. 16 decisions to do nothing. The Fitbit data haunted Chen's memory. The graph of heartbeats slowing over 72 hours. The GPS coordinates static underground. The Wi-Fi logs detecting Marcus's cloned network approaching and receding. Technology had documented everything except the one piece of information that mattered most: what to do when someone disappeared. In April 2025, Marcus Wayne had been incarcerated for 1 year. He would remain imprisoned for 34 more. His life had been reduced to an 8x10 cell, routine meals, controlled movement, and silence. Emily Harrison had been 29 when she died, her life full of potential and promise. The mathematics of justice seemed inadequate: 35 years of imprisonment measured against a life ended at 29. Marcus Wayne's parents visited their son once during his first year of incarceration. The meeting lasted 15 minutes. Neither party had much to say. They did not return for a second visit. Whatever relationship had existed between them had fractured beyond repair. Marcus had destroyed not only Emily's life, but also his own family's coherence. The case files remained open to legal review pending any appeals Marcus might file. His attorneys submitted a motion in late 2024 challenging the second-degree murder conviction, arguing insufficient evidence of causation. The motion was denied. A second appeal in 2025 contested the 35-year sentence as excessive, also denied. The conviction stood. Technology companies quietly studied the case, looking for lessons about data security, user privacy, and corporate liability. The fact that Fitbit's cloud storage had been crucial to solving Emily's murder raised questions about encryption, access protocols, and legal obligations to preserve versus protect user data. No consensus emerged. The white Ford Transit van used in the abduction was eventually sold at police auction after serving as evidence. The buyer, unaware of its history, used it for his house painting business for 2 years before someone recognized it from trial photos. He sold it immediately, uncomfortable with the association. The van changed hands 3 more times before being retired to a salvage yard in 2026. Emily's apartment building implemented new security measures following her death. Cameras were installed in hallways, stairwells, and the parking garage. Residents received information about recognizing stalking behaviors and reporting suspicious activity. The changes came too late for Emily, but might protect future residents. Marcus Wayne's apartment, 1 floor below Emily's former home, was rented to a new tenant within 3 months. The landlord disclosed the building's history as required by law. Some prospective renters declined. Others felt the enhanced security measures made the building safer than alternatives. The apartment cycled through several short-term tenants before someone signed a year-long lease. The university library, where Marcus had created his anonymous email account, updated its computer policies. Public workstations now required library card authentication. Usage was logged. The changes aimed to prevent anonymous digital activity while maintaining public access to technology. Detective Chen's presentation about the case, delivered at a law enforcement conference in Las Vegas, emphasized the importance of examining seemingly innocuous digital traces. Marcus Wayne's earbuds seemed irrelevant until we understood Emily's shoe sensor logged nearby Bluetooth devices, Chen explained to an audience of investigators. Modern cases require thinking differently about evidence. Everything communicates. Everything leaves traces. This detail was withheld from trial because it created complex legal questions about intent. If Marcus researched survival times, did that demonstrate concern for Emily's well-being or merely curiosity about the timeline of her death? The prosecution worried it might confuse rather than clarify the jury's understanding of his mental state. Emily's Strava account remained active for 6 months after her death, her parents unable to bring themselves to delete it. The final route posted on June 15th showed her path along Ocean View Beach, ending at the parking lot. Eventually, her parents requested Strava memorialize the account, preserving it as a record of Emily's athletic achievements without allowing further activity. In California State Prison, Marcus Wayne maintained his silence. Fellow inmates knew his case from media coverage. Those convicted of crimes against women faced particular hostility in prison culture. Marcus existed on the periphery of the social structure, neither protected nor actively targeted, simply isolated. Judge Romero retired in 2026, 2 years after sentencing Marcus Wayne. In her final interview with the San Diego legal newspaper, she reflected on her 30 years on the bench. When asked about the most difficult case she'd presided over, she mentioned Emily Harrison. "The preventability haunted me," Romero said. "So many moments where intervention could have changed everything. But hindsight offers clarity that real-time decisions lack." The abandoned warehouse's demolition uncovered the underground chamber where Emily had spent her final days. Workers paused when they reached that section, uncomfortable with continuing. The developer brought in a specialized team who handled the demolition quickly and professionally. The concrete was broken up, hauled away, buried in a landfill. The space ceased to exist physically, though it remained preserved in photographs, floor plans, and the memories of those who had seen it. Emily Harrison was 29 years old when Marcus Wayne decided she existed for his benefit rather than her own autonomy. She had been preparing for a marathon. She had recently earned a promotion. She had friends who cared about her, parents who loved her, a life full of ordinary hopes and ambitions. Marcus Wayne sits in a California prison cell. He will be 60 years old before facing a parole board. Emily Harrison will be forever 29.